If I was sitting across the table from you and I asked you, who are you? Chances are you'd answer in a social context, in a nationality context. Perhaps you'd say, I am South African, I am a CEO, I am a mother, etc., etc. We identify with different dimensions of ourselves, depending on the context of when we're asked the question, right? What I really want to unpack today is the importance of seeing the broadness, the vastness of who you are, and not to box yourself into these roles that we take on. Now, in and of themselves, the roles are not a bad thing, right? It's not bad, it's not wrong to identify with these different roles. The challenge comes when you become obsessed and possessed by that role, that when you're no longer fulfilling that function, you actually don't know who you are. You don't know what your source is, what your essence is. The broader aspect of you is your consciousness. You're a human being. You are being. You are. Put differently, some people call it the spirit, the light, the essence, etc., etc. So it's not important what you choose to call it, but what is important is the awareness of it, because in this busy lifestyle that most of us have, we get so caught up, so identified with the role that we forget that we are the witness. We are the consciousness that's shining, and I'm doing this with my hands because this is you. This is the light, the consciousness, the spirit being that is aware of this role that is here, this role, the story that lives within the mind. I'll give you an example. So when you say, I am not feeling my best today, who has that awareness that you're not feeling okay? It's your consciousness that is aware, that is looking at your mind here and saying that the mind is not at its best today. The bigger the gap is between your consciousness and your mind, is the more at peace, the more fulfilled you will feel, the more in control you will feel. And when I speak of control, I'm not talking about controlling life and the unpredictableness of it. I'm talking about having control and ownership of yourself. Far too often we get caught up in the mind. So the mind will be thinking, it'll be stressed, it'll be overwhelmed, etc., etc. It'll get carried away. And what we do is we get so identified with that and we run with the mind and we lose sight of the consciousness, the light of consciousness that is always there. So when we're able to separate ourselves in this gap, we're better equipped to make decisions that make sense for ourselves, that add value to our lives. So we're not reacting to life, we're responding to life. So I ask you again, who are you? And as I say that to you, are you getting that sense of sitting in your consciousness, sitting in your spirit, and identifying more with that? Because within there's no story, there's just presence, there's being, there's peace, there's calmness. And there's so many rituals and activities that we all do to be in that space more often. And I'm going to share a few of them. So one of them is prayer. When we pray, we enter into that state of just being. Now, of course, it depends on how you pray. So if you treat prayer as an opportunity to go in with your shopping list of all these things that you want God to do for you, then it's not really a doorway for you to enter that peace and that calmness. So perhaps a better word then would be meditation, because meditation, if you think about it, is more about sitting in stillness. It's more about listening to your inner being, your inner voice, right? Whereas prayer tends to be a whole lot of talking, for most people, that is. And if you do use prayer to enter that space, I really want to encourage you to spend time listening and tuning in and sharing from a deeper place of wanting to be a better human being, to show up better, a space of honoring who you are as well, and not just treating it as a transactional thing that you're doing. Another way to enter that space is through spending time in nature. I'm actually shocked at how much research shows us that spending time in nature is healing, it's soothing, it reduces your blood pressure, it increases your feel-good hormones like oxytocin. There's so many other benefits to it, so if you have access, I really want to encourage you to do that. You can also spend time grounding, and grounding means walking barefoot on the earth, not on concrete, but on the actual earth, on grass, real grass, not the artificial grass that we tend to have in a lot of corporate buildings these days to bring in that feel of nature, but on real actual grass, because the earth has energy, and when you connect with it through your feet, that energy runs through you. You literally become one with Mother Nature when you connect in that way. And finally, I want to touch on the importance of you creating your own rituals, your own routines, because far too often we're looking for the answer out there somewhere. Somebody has to tell us what to do in order to connect, in order to increase this gap that I'm talking about between your consciousness and your mind that is just constantly thinking. You are always talking to yourself, but the challenge is we don't listen. We don't trust ourselves. We don't trust our knowing. But when you get into the habit of just sitting and listening and seeing what comes up for you, I promise you, you will get the message, go and sit in the sun. Or you will get the message, it's been a while since I did this activity or that activity. Let me do it. Listen to that inner knowing, because it's constantly guiding you towards something that will uplift you and fulfill you. For those of you that are struggling to tune into yourself and you're like, yeah, but Maiyo, you don't know how hectic life is. I don't have time to go around walking barefooted and tuning into my higher self, etc., etc. So what does work for you? It could look like spending 10 minutes during your day, just centering yourself. It could mean taking up yoga classes and connecting deeply with your body. The only way that you can make time for these things is by making time for these things. And the benefits are immeasurable. We all prioritize what's important to us. So if you simply don't have the time, trust me, if the doctor told you that you have 3 months to completely change your diet, otherwise you are going to die, most of us would institute those changes immediately. So treat your mental health and wellness in the same way. Because if you're constantly running, trust me, at some point you're going to burn out. But if you take just 10 minutes every single day to tune into yourself, into that presence, that being, that spirit, that light, and just be still in it, you'll begin to take on a completely different view of the possibilities in your life.